I'm Jamie Coppell, and I'm going to talk today about an organization that I founded called Bilingual Education for Central America, or BECA. And BECA has a dual-pronged mission. We promote multicultural collaboration, and we provide a high-quality, low to no cost bilingual education through collaboration with 3 community-run schools in Honduras in Central America. Those 3 schools each serve children in grades preschool through 9th grade, and providing educational access and empowerment to the most financially disadvantaged members of a community is a defining characteristic of what we are doing through that multicultural collaboration. So for those who don't speak Spanish, it will come perhaps as no surprise that beca is a word that means scholarship in Spanish. And September 2021, which is just around the corner, will actually mark 20 years since I moved to Honduras, originally just with the smaller idea of collaborating to open one school that could serve as a model for inexpensive, high quality bilingual education in Central America. And actually, so this picture is old now, but here's a picture of me with one of our first classes of first graders back in 2002, I think this photo is. And at that time, Hurricane Mitch had devastated the country only 23 months before. When I arrived, the wreckage was still present in so many places. Entire towns had been leveled, bridges were out all over the country. More than 3,000 schools in a country that at the time had a population of less than 7 million people. More than 3,000 schools had been seriously damaged. So there were lots of folks who were contributing to important relief efforts. They were sending school supplies or contributing to school building repairs. But nobody was addressing this larger systemic issue of the need to level the economic playing field by creating access to a high quality bilingual education, which at the time was something only wealthy people could access. And so perhaps in the naivete of youth, and the energy of a community that invigorated me, we decided we could do this. We could create that model. And I'm going to give you the spoiler now, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what it looks like. 20 years later, and graduates from BECA's 3 partner schools are engineers, they're doctors, they're business owners, they're civic leaders. And yes, and this one's the point of the most pride, perhaps, they are half of the teaching force in our partner schools. We are so proud of what we have done as a very still scrappy grassroots organization that is incredibly people powered, which is my way of telling you that every single dollar we seek to raise is a dollar that directly benefits our programs. And I'm also coming to you today to say that today, the country and our communities are once again reeling from the devastation of 2 rapid fire hurricanes, Eta and Iota, that struck in the midst of this global pandemic just this past month. And the devastation is unbelievable, and the need is so, so great. And so the alternative gift fair's timing could not be better in the spirit of our needs to serve our communities being so much more profound than usual. So I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about our gifts, which are very much related to the dire needs on the ground this moment. So our first gift is providing relief resources to displaced family members, community members in our school communities, providing them with food and water and other essentials. So this past month, to give you a little bit more detail, Hurricane Eta tore through Central America. It wreaked havoc in Nicaragua, and then it continued through Honduras, leaving devastation in its wake. Several of our community members, including a few of our graduates, were actually trapped on roofs for several days awaiting rescue because there were not enough boats to actually get to folks to get to them, and the water had just risen too fast. Power was out across the country for more than a week, everywhere. Water was out in our communities. In fact, in one of our communities, it's still out. And getting potable water deliveries has been made incredibly difficult because of the number of bridges that were destroyed. This is a picture of one of our teachers' family's home. It was completely destroyed. They run a small school supplies store out of their home, which is the major source of income for his family. That's kind of just, that is what his entire family home looks like. And this is not unusual. This is Orlando's family. And so in the chat, I'm actually also going to paste a picture of the airport that is closest to our three schools, San Pedro Sula Airport. If you click on the link, you'll see that the airport it's the water's slowly receding, but it was under 2 meters or about 7 feet of water. And they don't expect to be able to open it for commercial flights for quite a while still, which, as you can imagine, makes humanitarian efforts even more complicated. But there's hope. So here's an image of our teachers and our school administrators working together with community to assemble relief packages for families in our schools who've lost so much. And here's the reality, and I've heard it in each of the presenters today. The reality is that because our work is so human-centered, so relationship-based, and because there's virtually no social services infrastructure in the country, Becca is collaborating with our incredible Honduran partners, regular everyday community members who are playing the role of superheroes in this moment in particular by coordinating and supporting relief efforts because they know their community members, they know who has need, and that makes all the difference. So we're making sure folks have those basic needs fulfilled as we're also turning to recovery. We have a number of families who have been displaced, and if their children are going to be able to continue their education, and if all of them are to recover from this trauma, we've placed a number of them in apartments we've been able to rent, and we're working with them to plan for longer term recovery. And so I mentioned this, and I'll put a fine point on it, as an educational nonprofit, a large part of the work and how it connects to our mission is that it's crucial that we stay in touch with families in crisis so that we can support them in this trauma and ensure that they are able to stay members of our community so that those relationships stay strong and their children can persevere. And your gifts and contributions to this effort are vital. As I mentioned, we are a super scrappy nonprofit, really proud of our human powered nature. And we already spend well more than 97% of dollars directly on programming. So this financial need I'm talking about is well beyond that. So we literally cannot do this work without new supporters. And so we're grateful to be able to bring that need to all of you. So I'm talking about hurricane relief, but our second gift is related to this other reality that we are all living around the world, and that is the pandemic, that is COVID. So schools in Honduras, just like in many places, have been closed to in-person learning since last March. And for our communities, this is even more challenging than for children and families most places in the United States and elsewhere. Most of our families live in very humble homes. They don't have internet or computers. And so last year we pulled off the Herculean feat of making sure we remained connected in meaningful ways to every single student. We hand delivered resources to those who didn't even have a cell phone connection that was consistent so they could download learning resources and have packets. We revamped our entire training to ensure students could actually prepare for this year and teach in the ways that virtual learning requires. And we received a really generous contribution this fall that has allowed us to purchase tablets that we're now in the process of getting to our students. But the final hurdle is actual internet access, which is extraordinarily expensive in Central America. And so as the pandemic stretches on and so many of our families are now in even greater crisis and we desperately need to stay in touch with them, it's really critical and really costly to make sure that we have access to internet that we can make available to them so that our students and families can be emotionally connected with each other, which anyone who's a parent or an auntie or an uncle or anyone who knows children and what it means to be a family in a crisis knows how important that is. And so that is our second gift. So we have the three schools, each have about 250 students. So in total right now we have 715 students across the three schools. So each classroom is about 25 students and we keep it capped there to ensure good relationships. So our third gift is one that is a source of real joy for me. So we run a number of programs outside of our everyday work of providing a high quality education. And they're intended to complement and support our students and families' learning experiences and the connections with their teachers. And one of them is called Libros y Familias, or Books and Families. And that is a program that actually is adapted from Alma Florada out of San Francisco State University. And it's intended to ensure meaningful dialogue between home and school in a mutual trust and respect model. And it is a day every year at each of our schools where families and students come together. We did it virtually last spring to engage in literacy workshops, discussions, reading, and art activities. And as a result, we've been able to see a direct increase in the amount of time parents are spending reading high quality literature to their children at home, that reflects culturally relevant storylines for their children. It won't be perhaps surprising to you to know that it's really hard to access good literature in Honduras. There's not a strong printing industry there. And so we don't like to just send down books that candidly feature a lot of white, blonde, blue-eyed children, which are often what's donated. And so being able to work with publishing houses that give us deep discounts still comes with a cost. And so the resources that we hope to direct from this effort to that allow us to purchase in bulk books that tell stories and reflect the lived experiences of our students, um, and ensure that those are the books that they have in their homes, to be learners and lovers of reading. So I will stop there in case there are questions, but just say that I'm just really grateful to be here again. The support we received last year came at a critical time, and it's an even more critical time this year. So thank you.